Hello, hello everybody. Welcome. This is Avi Abelo here in the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem, in our eternal and ancestral homeland, for today's Pulse of Israel, going through the top topics of the day. So today we're going to be dealing with two crazy verdicts, crazy leftist verdicts of Israel's Supreme Court. Just yesterday, they both came down. Then we're going to go into talking about today, the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, right? The holiday we celebrate trees. Why do the Jewish people celebrate trees? So we'll get into that. Then we'll go into the topic of Judea and Samaria, talking about how everything going on is not about annexing Judea and Samaria. Very, very important. Applying sovereignty is what we're talking about, not annexation. Then we're going to go into an issue which someone asked online. I don't know if I'm going to be answering his question, but he brought it up, the citizenship of Arab Muslims, right? The Israeli citizenship of Arab Muslims, what their situation is, what their status is, with everything with the Trump deal, etc. Go into that. Finally, how do Israelis react to the international sensation Fauda? And Christine is up early enough to catch. Thank you, Christine, for watching. And finally, somebody asked for me to talk about the growing Noahide community. And before we begin, again, anyone, you have any issues, current events issues, issues about Israel or Jewish people you want me to deal with, just write them in the comment section below or send me a message and I will deal with them. So, again, as we begin, this is Avi Abelo for the Pulse of Israel. If you enjoy the work we do using videos and the internet to spread the truth about Israel and the Jewish people, please give a donation of any amount to help us with our work. You could support us, partner with us. Just go to www.pulseofisrael.com and give a donation, whatever amount. That would be amazing to assist us in doing this work. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. Deep dive. Issue number 1. The latest leftist craziness in Israel's Supreme Court. And good afternoon, Joel. Thanks for watching. This is nuts. So, 2 verdicts came down from Israel's Supreme Court yesterday. We're going to break them down. We'll deal with verdict number 1. Verdict number 1 has to do with a parliamentarian, an MK, Chaver Knesset, of the Joint Arab List, who has publicly supported terrorists, right? She has publicly on her Facebook page come out supporting terrorists who have murdered innocent Jews. So, there is a law in Israel that someone who supports terror or supports the destruction of the state of Israel, well, they're not allowed to be parliamentarians in Israel's parliament, in the Knesset, right? Sounds pretty simple. Shalom, Jason. Thanks for watching, right? Pretty simple, right? Now, almost every single election, there are Arab Muslim potential Knesset members who are running to be parliamentarians in Israel Knesset who have supported terrorists and who come out blatantly supporting the destruction of Israel. So the Knesset has a process where the parliament itself brings up those names of potential, before elections, of potential parliamentarians, and says these people support terror or support support the destruction of the state of Israel. This is the proof. And then they, in the Knesset, in Israel's parliament, decide whether someone should be allowed to run in the election or not based on that criteria. Every single time there is an Arab Muslim who supports the destruction of Israel with proof that they that they support the destruction of Israel or that they support terror, the Supreme Court always knocks the decision down and allows them to run and serve in Israel's Knesset every single time. This time, unfortunately, is no different. There was another member, I forgot her name right now, for the Joint Arab List, and the Knesset committee decided she can't run to be in the Knesset because blatantly she supports terrorism. She's out there talking about how she supports terrorists who've murdered innocent Jews, murdered children. And, of course, it's brought up the Supreme Court. What did the Supreme Court decide yesterday? No surprise, she can run and serve in Israel's parliament, even though blatantly she has supported terrorists. Now, the biggest problem is the hypocrisy of Israel's Supreme Court, because just a number of months ago, they disqualified Jewish parliamentarians, potential parliamentarians, for running in the Knesset to be in parliament. Why? Because they had said things that were racist. Okay? So, they had questionable things that they talked about, that they said they're racist, they were disqualified. It went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court approved that decision that the Jewish parliamentarians, who basically are being called out for potentially being racist because of things they said, they are disqualified from serving in the Knesset, but yet Arab Muslims who blatantly support terrorism and blatantly support the destruction of the state of Israel, Israel's leftist Supreme Court allows to run and serve in Israel's Knesset. Now, I just want to take a step back. I'm not going to go through the particulars of the Jewish parliamentarians that were disqualified, but when they're being called out as racists, they're actually not racists, because the context of what they were talking about was against the terror that exists in the Muslim world. They're not against all Muslims, but yes, they have very harsh comments, because what do we deal with? We deal with horrendous terror from the Muslim world. And their comments are in that context. But they are disqualified, even though they're just the ones who speak the truth, even so in a very strong manner that many people might not like, but they're actually looking to protect Israel from the Islamic terrorists within our midst. And they are disqualified because they're labeled racists. Yet Arab Muslim Israelis who support terrorists and support the destruction of Israel blatantly, they are allowed by Israel's Supreme Court to serve in Israel's parliament. So it is crazy, but let me give the positive. The positive is change is happening. The last justice minister we had in Israel, Ayelet Shaked, was trying to make changes to the Supreme Court, allowing for more conservative voices to have a seat on Israel's Supreme Court. Whereas in the past, all these decisions about disqualifying Arab Israelis who support terrorists or terrorism, it always went down to a vote of like 8 justices that allow them and 1 that supports disqualifying them, or 7 allowing them to serve and 2 disqualifying them. Always a vast majority, because that was always the leaning of the Supreme Court. This is the first time the vote actually went 5-4. You can actually say it was 5, meaning it was 5 saying that she could remain, 5 leftists, agenda, radical Supreme Court justices who basically throw the law out the window in order to allow a terror-supporting Arab Muslim Israeli to serve in the Knesset, whereas there were 4 that voted that she should be disqualified. Interestingly enough, it was probably really 3 and 1 strategically doing it, because the one who strategically did it is the president or the head Supreme Court Justice, Esther Chayut, and she's the one who chose which ones would be on the 9-judge panel. So you could say that she knew what she was choosing. She knew that there would be enough to overrule the ruling to disqualify her, and she would be allowed to run. And she, in a sense, saved her skin by coming out looking okay by voting to uphold the decision of the Knesset, which approved of disqualifying her. All right. Anyway, that's the situation. Israel's Supreme Court once again did not surprise anyone by blatantly disregarding the law, right? A Supreme Court of law is supposed to be about law, right? They're supposed to use law. Well, the law on the books tells them exactly in what cases a person should be disqualified. In this case, time after time, the Arab Muslim Israelis who want to run for Knesset go against the law. They blatantly support terrorism. They blatantly support terrorists. Some of them blatantly support the destruction of Israel. And time after time, Israel's Supreme Court disregards the law and instead allows these people to serve in Israel's parliament. So that's leftist craziness number 1. Let's go to leftist craziness number 2. There is a case of an African woman or family, I don't know exactly the details, who were requesting asylum here in Israel. And it went through the lower courts, and the lower courts basically said that she should not be granted asylum, and then that was overturned, surprise, surprise, by the Supreme Court. Why? Why is she requesting asylum? Because if she would stay in her Muslim African country, or within her Muslim society in that African country, her family would force upon her to perform female FGM, right? Female genital mutilation. Okay? Based on that, Israel's Supreme Court overturned the lower court's decision to not grant her asylum to grant her asylum. Now, do you understand this? Again, a leftist craziness of Israel's Supreme Court. These leftist-driven Supreme Court justices just set a precedent that any Muslim woman, in a sense anywhere around the world, that wants to run away from her family from performing female genital mutilation can come to Israel and be granted asylum. You're talking about the potential of tens, if not hundreds of millions of women. Right? I mean, first of all, yes, I am against female genital mutilation. It is not compared to man circumcision at all, which Jews practice on baby boys. That's a totally different topic. But that is a Muslim practice. Whether one agrees or disagrees with it, it is practiced by many in the Muslim world. And all of a sudden, Israel's Supreme Court just ruled that any woman who wants to run away from her family from performing on her female genital mutilation can come to Israel and by law, by the Supreme Court precedent, be granted asylum. That is ludicrous. That is crazy. That's utter craziness by a leftist-driven agenda of Israel's Supreme Court. If anyone had any desire to destroy Israel as the Jewish state, all they have to do right now is send over every Muslim woman to Israel claiming that they are running away from having performed on them female genital mutilation. And according to Israel's Supreme Court, they would be granted asylum. It is craziness. Craziness. So this was just set by the Supreme Court. I have no clue how legally this can be overturned. It was set by the Supreme Court. I do know that Israel's Minister of Interior is looking for this to be looked into, because we can be inundated tomorrow with millions of Muslim women from all over the world looking for asylum because they want to escape female genital mutilation. It makes no sense whatsoever. That is not something that any country in the world grants asylum to. All right? You could agree that it's horrible. You could agree that it shouldn't be done. But one, that's not life-threatening. Two, it's a problem that has to be dealt with if one lives in a country or a society that they're against it, for sure. But that is not a reason for any country to allow asylum. And Israel's Supreme Court just did that. So again, a total leftist agenda, because that in itself will bring about the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel if that precedent is upheld. Total destruction of the Jewish state of Israel. Just flood Israel with Muslim women fleeing female genital mutilation. That's basically what Israel's Supreme Court just did to bring about the total destruction of Israel as a Jewish state. Utter craziness. All right, let's go down. Today is the Jewish holiday of Tu B'Shvat. What's Margie writing? The left are trying their best to make Israel a non-Jewish country. Exactly. And thanks for that input, Margie. I spoke about that yesterday also, and this is a topic that always comes up. They are always trying. Always trying. Someone actually wrote on a comment to my video yesterday saying that 50% of Israel's problems are from the left. I'm like, no. 99.9% of Israel's problems are from the left, because it's the left that supports the destruction of Israel as a Jewish state. That's the left that supports the de-Judaizing, the weakening of the Jewish character of the state, always having helping the enemies rather than helping defend Israel. It's a sickness. Leftism is a sickness, whether it's in the whole Western world or whether it's just in the Jewish world. It is really sick, because it's basically supporting your own self-destruction. everything about the left is supporting policies that bring about your own self-destruction. Whether it's supporting socialism, because socialism is about destroying a society and allowing only for the rich and it's allowing those in power to be rich and powerful, and everyone else to be poor, and to have a hold over society, to be able to kill and jail anyone they want. That's what socialism allows. That is also fascism, right? So it's the left that supports all these horrible things, and here, left in Israel supports policies that weaken Israel, which in a sense could allow Israel to be destroyed, and weakening the Jewish character of Israel, which would bring about the destruction of Israel as the Jewish state. And those are all policies of the left. So leftism is a sickness because it's basically supporting your own self-destruction. Crazy. All right, let's go to a happy thought. Happy thought. Today, Jews around the world and the state of Israel are celebrating the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. So what does this mean, Tu B'Shvat? So it's actually an acronym, Tu, and not the number 2. It's actually a Hebrew. It's not an acronym. It's a number, actually. It's the number 15. It's 2 letters. Tet, which is 9. Vav, which is 6. Together is 15. So the 15th day of the month of Shvat. The Jewish people have their own calendar. We have months. It's different than the secular calendar. And our holidays go according to the Jewish calendar. So today is the 15th day of Shvat, and it is a celebration of the trees. That's what Tu B'Shvat's about. Why do the Jewish people have a holiday celebrating the trees? So I wanna clear up some misinformation. Because a lot of people out there, and especially a lot of Jews, they talk about how Tu B'Shvat is a celebration of the trees, which means that it's a celebration of the ecology, right? Celebration of nature, celebration of trees, celebrating taking care of nature, etc., 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 right? All important things. That's not what the holiday of Tu B'Shvat's about. Okay? You can also celebrate nature. You can also celebrate the need to take care of nature. 100%. But that's not what the holiday of Tu B'Shvat's about. The holiday of Tu B'Shvat actually has two different pillars to them. Pillar number 1, a recognition of God as the creator for all of nature. Right? It's a day where we're basically saying thank you to God for creating the world. So, which brings you back to the point of all these Jewish leftists who don't want to believe in God, and they don't want to follow God's rules or the commandments God gave us in the Torah on any level. And yet here they want to celebrate Tu B'Shvat because it's a celebration of the ecology. No, it's a celebration that, yes, we have to take care of the world that God created to us and made us the caretakers. So it's about celebrating God, recognizing God as the creator of the world, and thanking God for that. And then the other hypocrisy dealing with this, how leftists deal with this holiday, is this is a holiday that was instituted in order for us to follow the commandments, because there are a number of commandments in the Torah that Jews have to follow about giving of our produce. The Jewish people are a nature-oriented, we are an ecological-oriented people because we are directly connected to the land of Israel. Also, a call out to all those Jews who don't support Israel. Our peoplehood, our identity is one and the same with the land of Israel. A large percentage of the Torah, of the Bible, of the commandments are how we deal with the land. How we plant, when we plant, what we can plant, what plants we can put together, what plants we can't put together. What are the dates what are the dates of taking fruit and off of trees and then giving them as gifts either to God or as gifts to certain people, whether to the priests or to the Levites or to the poor. This law of Tu B'Shvat, the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, allows us to know how old a tree is so that we could follow the laws of when we're supposed to take the fruit off the trees and give them to the priests, to the Levites, or to the temple, or to the poor. All right, we have Masrot, the laws of Maser, the laws of Truma, the laws of Orla. These are different laws about at what age a fruit is and what we do with that fruit and when we can eat a fruit. It all depends on how old a tree is. How do we count how old a tree is in order to know when to follow the laws? Because the trees have a birthday. Tu B'Shvat is the birthday of the trees, and it's because we know it has a birthday, we are able to count how old a tree is. A farmer knows when he planted a tree or an orchard or a vineyard, and accordingly he counts how many years since it was planted in order to follow the laws of when he is allowed to take fruit off, and then to give to the temple, to the priests, to the Levites, to the poor, etc., etc. So everyone today who celebrates Tu B'Shvat because it celebrates nature and how we have to take care of nature, but yet they disregard God as the creator and disregard thanking God. They disregard following the commandments that God gave us in the Torah. They disregard Israel as being part of their Jewish identity. I'm sorry, but they're being hypocrites because they are disconnecting the actual purpose of the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, which is one, to thank God for being the creator and showing recognition for that, because the tree's not mine. God gave me the tree. God brought me the rain. God's helping me with my produce growing. It's God. It's not me. I have to do my input, but it's God. And principle number 2, we have to know how old a tree is in order to follow the laws, the agricultural laws God gave us in the Torah. So everybody, happy Tu B'Shvat. How do we celebrate? We celebrate by eating some of the special fruits of the land of Israel. Again, Tu B'Shvat is a holiday of the land of Israel. Jews can celebrate all over the world, but it is about celebrating the connection of the Jew, our inherent connection in our Jewish identity to the land of Israel. And it's thanking God and being able to know how to count the years of trees to know how to follow the laws. That is the essence. And people celebrate by having a Tu B'Shvat Seder, a special meal, and having dried fruits, or having saying special blessings over the fruits. So happy Tu B'Shvat every day. And the other amazing thing about Israel, I believe Israel is the only country in the world that has a growing population of trees with each and every year. Because in Israel, we are very nature conscious. We are conscious that we need trees, and it helps the environment, helps oxygen, and we're always planting. Israel is always planting more and more trees. Unfortunately, we have fires every once in a while that destroy some of the forests. Some of them are natural. Some of them are eco-terror that are Israeli Arab Muslims start in order to destroy our forests and cause potential loss of life and property of Israelis that Arabs are also affected by, because it's a fire and you can't control a fire where it goes. But Israel is always planting trees, and we have a growing tree population, probably the only population in the only country in the world that has a constant growing tree population. Maybe little changes here and there, but we're always, whatever, after it dips, we're always going higher and planting more trees. So happy Tu B'Shvat, everybody. Thank God for everything you have. Thank God for the nature we have. Thank God for waking up in the morning. Thank God for your health. Thank God for your family, for your friends, for your job. Whatever you have, say thank you. Whatever you don't have, work on getting and pray to God to help you to get it. All right? That is life. That is the life of a Jew. All right. So let's go back to the Judea and Samaria issue, because somebody made a very important comment yesterday. You will notice that all of my talk about Judea and Samaria and the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria and the Trump deal of the century, the vision applying sovereignty to Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley, I always use the word sovereignty. What's sovereignty? Sovereignty basically means the application of a country's laws in that area. All right? So I'm always using the language of sovereignty. Some people you will hear and see in headline news use the word annexation, right? As if it's calling upon Israel, or Israel is allowed to annex areas of Judea and Samaria. Do not use the word annex. I don't use the word annex. You don't use the word annex. You hear someone use the word annex, correct them. Tell them we're talking about applying sovereignty, not annexation. Annexation is basically annexing something to you that is not yours, or doesn't belong to you, right? So, Russia attacks Crimea, then annexed Crimea, right? It belonged to the Ukraine, then it annexed Crimea because it didn't belong to them, right? That you could use the word annex. Of course, people in Russia might disagree, but in any case, I'm just giving it an example. Judea and Samaria has belonged to the Jewish people for thousands of years, right? It's our ancestral homeland. And again, put history aside, according to international law, 1920 San Remo Conference, then the 1922 decision of the League of Nations gave all of Judea and Samaria to the Jewish people to be part of the Jewish state of Israel. So the word that should be used in dealing with this issue is not annexation, because we don't have to annex something that already belongs to us. The correct word again is sovereignty. Israel applying sovereignty to our lands. Now, I live in a community in Judea and Samaria, so what does that mean, applying sovereignty? So without getting into too much detail, because it is very complex and complicated, communities in Judea and Samaria are not directly under the law of the government of Israel. All laws that apply to us have basically been accepted and approved upon by the IDF, which is in charge of Judea and Samaria. And what we're calling for, finally, is that, yes, we don't want this middleman of the IDF being in charge of agreeing and applying the laws. We want to be directly under the state of Israel, the government of Israel, that all laws that Israelis in Haifa and Tel Aviv and Beersheba and Eilat have, they all apply to us as well, exactly the same way. Again, I'm not going into the complexities because it's very complex legal stuff, legal aspects of this, but just understand the word annex and annexation are wrong. Do not use the word annexation. Tell anyone who uses that word not to use that word. The correct use is sovereignty. We want to change the legal status of all areas in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley, or as much as we can, as quick as we can, so that we are in the same legal standing as all Israelis underneath the Israeli government, the way law is applied, and for Israel to apply sovereignty, apply Israeli law the same way with us as it does in the rest of Israel, but do not use the word annex. Judea and Samaria, Jordan Valley, belong to Israel historically, morally, and according to international law, so the word of annex is wrong. You don't annex something that is already yours, but we do have to finally apply Israeli sovereignty. All right, so that is that important issue that someone asked me about yesterday. Then someone asked me about the Israeli citizenship of Arab Muslims. So I don't know exactly where you were going with Akiva when you asked this question, but I'll answer you the following, and I'll give you some context for why this was brought up, possibly. One application of the citizenship issue of Israeli Arab Muslims, is that part of Trump's deal of the century is a border change where a large area, landmass of large villages that are predominantly, if not all, Arab Muslims, Israelis, would be handed over to the Palestinian Authority. So on the one hand, you have these Arab Muslim Israelis in this triangle area, that's what it's called because it looks like a triangle on the map. You have them parading around, protesting against Israel with the flags of Palestine, right, of the Palestinian Authority, that ugly red, green, and white flag, in a sense supporting Palestine, right, and supporting the end of the state of Israel. But yet, when this plan came out, they are against it and upset about it because they don't want to lose their Israeli citizenship. Go figure, right? On the one hand, they protest against Israel. They protest for the destruction of Israel. Again, not all of them, but many of them. They protest in support of a creation of a state called Palestine under the Palestinian Authority. But when given the choice, according to this plan, they do not want to lose their Israeli citizenship and all of a sudden be under the Palestinian Authority. So how do you explain this? So I explain it very simply. Don't use Western logic. This isn't the West. This is the Muslim-dominated area of the Middle East. Islam is an area, is a culture of, there's a lot of respect to it, but there's a lot of intolerance, a lot of terror, a lot of treating someone who is not Muslim as a second-class citizen, things that do not make sense to the Western mind. And again, I am all for living peacefully with Arab Muslims who want to live peacefully with me and with us, and that can be achieved, but you have to know how to deal with the vast majority of Arab Muslims, including Israeli Arab Muslims, who support the destruction of Israel, even though their lives are better as Israeli citizens. On the one hand, they support the destruction of Israel. On the other hand, they know that they have the best life possible under Israel, and they'll have a horrible life under the Palestinian Authority. But yet they still support the destruction of Israel for the creation of a state called Palestine. Right? The creation of a state called Palestine replacing Israel will make their lives horrible, and they know it, but they still support it. That is the illogic of the Muslim Middle East that Westerners will not figure out, because they think, oh, everyone just wants a better life. Some Arab Muslims do want a better life, and they know how blessed they are to be Israeli citizens, like Sarah Zouabi and her family, her son, Mohammed Zahabi. They are clear supporters of Israel. They call themselves proud Zionists. They know how blessed they are to be Arab Muslims living in Israel. There are plenty of Arab Muslims who believe that and know how blessed they are to live in Israel, but yet they are still a minority, and they're definitely a minority willing to go public with that, because the second you do that, their lives are threatened, not just by friends and neighbors, but also family members, like literally threatened. Their lives are in danger because they support. And from Arab Muslim Israelis, right? From Arab Muslims who are Israeli citizens, their lives are in danger. Family and friends and neighbors. You get that? So on the one hand, they enjoy the benefits of being Israeli citizens with the freedoms and the rights and the equality that Israel gives them that they wouldn't be able to get under the Palestinian Authority. They wouldn't be able to get by Hamas in Gaza. They wouldn't be able to get in any Arab Muslim country the freedom that they receive here as Israeli citizens. And still, vast majority of Arab Muslim Israelis support the destruction of Israel. And you even go to college campuses, right, where they're supposed to be smart, and they're protesting against Israel and protesting in support of the destruction of the state of Israel. And these are Arab Muslim Israelis who are enjoying a nice life and nice lifestyle, and they're able to go to college, and still on campus, in an Israeli campus, they're supporting the destruction of Israel. So in answer to the question for me to talk about the citizenship of Arab Muslim Israelis, so yes, any Arab Muslim who is an Israeli and enjoys the benefits of being an Israeli citizen with the rights and freedom and equality that it gives. And yet, unfortunately, many of them still support the destruction of Israel, while at the same time they don't want to lose their Israeli citizenship. That's the conundrum we're in, and that's the conundrum that any Westerner, and even many Jews, who are moral people, cannot wrap their heads around. Because no, they want a good life. They don't want to destroy us. No, they want a good life, but they do want to destroy us. Now deal with the issue. And it's much harder conceptually for good people, for moral people, and moral Jews and moral Israelis to deal with, because they can't wrap their hands around it. What does that mean? Well, if they want to live a good life, and they live a good life with us, then they don't support destroying us. No, they still do. And that's part of our problem, that so many good-thinking Jews and good-thinking Israelis are unable to understand that our conflict is not a border conflict. Our conflict is a cultural, religious conflict, because this is the Muslim Middle East, and that's part of their culture, not allowing anyone who's not of their ilk in Islam to be able to have rights like them, or be able to have their own land and independence, etc., etc. So that world preaches and teaches their kids that we should be destroyed, and even allowing to murder us and kill us just because we're Jews. All right, so that's that issue. Now, how do Israelis react to the international success of the show Fauda? So for those of you who are not familiar, Fauda is an extremely successful television show. I think it finished its second season, filming third season, or it's already in the third season. I don't know. I'm still stuck at the end of the first season going to the second season. But it is a fabulous show, and it really is basically it is about a Israeli army unit that they're called Mista'aravim, basically Israeli soldiers who go undercover dressed as Arabs in enemy areas to be able to stop terror and stop terrorists. That is the goal of this special unit. This show is about that unit and what they're doing to stop terror and terrorists. And if you ask me, it is the most realistic show that shows what Israel's dealing with in trying to stop terror, as well as showing realistically the Arab Muslim population we're dealing with, and the challenges that they're going through, also with the terror and supporting terror and be connecting to terrorists and their society. Very, very realistic, both in terms of the Israeli side and the Arab Muslim side. Not everything's 100%. There are some things that are wrong, some things that are generalized, but it is the most realistic portrayal of what we're doing to try to stop terrorism, and also of the society of terrorism that they live in. So it's a fabulous show. How do Israelis react to it? I think Israelis are proud. One, that it's a success, and two, that it does give a realistic perspective of our challenges, and in a way that shows the realism of the other side. It's not just chest pounding, Israel, we're amazing, our army's amazing. It shows the challenges and the complexities on the Arab Muslim side as well. Again, not everything is 100% correct, but it's pretty much on target, and it's a complex situation. There is a good guy and a bad guy. But even within that, there are good guys and bad guys, right? So it's very, very interesting. But I think it makes Israelis feel proud that it's such a success. And the unbelievable thing about it is the creator of Fauda. It was created by two people. I don't remember their names right now. One of them, the creator, is also the writer, right? The two guys wrote the show. It was their idea, and they both wrote it. And he is the star. He's like the head star. So it's the first time he ever wrote a television show, and it's the first time I think he's ever acted, and he's the star of the show. So, and he's become a huge hit and success, and now he's being hired to write other shows and stuff, not just Fauda. So, an amazing success story, and again, it gives a very realistic perspective, the most realistic perspective on the screen of the challenges we deal with in fighting terror, and the terror that exists in the Arab Muslim world. And finally, I was asked to talk about the growing Noahide community. Fascinating topic. Really fascinating topic. Those who are unfamiliar, there are the 7 Noahide laws, right? God, when he spoke to Noah, he basically said, these are the 7 laws for humanity to follow. Now, I have a whole other session talking just about the development of God creating the world and creating the Jewish people, and what purpose, and the different stages of the creation of the world that then came to God deciding to create the Jewish people, choosing Abraham and start the Jewish people. But before that, he thought he would help the world and make the world a good place by introducing the 7 Noahide laws for humanity to follow. And basically, then when the Jewish people were created, because humanity was not all following the 7 Noahide laws, and he chose the Jewish people, and for the Jewish people, not the whole world, but only one small people. That's why we're chosen. We're chosen for a purpose. The purpose is to follow God's commandments in order for us to exemplify the type of lifestyle following God's ways, and then for the rest of humanity to learn from us, not to emulate us, not to want to become Jewish, but to learn from us, to then want to follow the 7 Noahide laws. That's basically upon all the world, all of humanity, to follow the 7 Noahide laws in order for the world to be a better place. And again, that is Bible-based. So yes, there is a growing Noahide community, people who are not Jewish, but have taken upon themselves to follow the 7 Noahide laws, right? And you can look up what the 7 Noahide laws are. 7 very basic laws of morality, like don't steal, like don't kill, right? Those are 2 of them. Okay? And there is a growing community of people, whether they're Christians or not Christians or grew up Christian, who have taken upon themselves to follow the 7 Noahide laws. And there is a growing community. It's basically people who believed in the Bible or come from religious backgrounds deciding that, oh my God, the Torah, the Bible that God gave the Jewish people and to all of humanity, we all have to follow the 7 Noahide laws. We are understanding that the basis of all other religions is the Bible, or the basis of Christianity and Islam it comes from the Bible, and they want to follow the 7 Noahide laws. They want to study the Bible. And again, nobody who wants to, and they don't have to be Jewish. They don't have to convert to Judaism. Right? Judaism is not a religion that calls upon others to convert. We don't say we are the only way, we are the right way, you have to live like us. Not at all. The Jews, the chosen people, we were chosen with the responsibility, or you can say with the burden, of following all 613 laws in the Torah. If you're not a Jew, but you want to be Jewish, you don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to convert. You could be whoever you are and just take upon yourself the 7 Noahide laws. Study the Bible, study the Torah, be impressed by the Jewish community, live like a Jew, but you don't have to convert as long as you follow the 7 Noahide laws. And you can definitely see that there is a process of redemption taking place with more and more people taking upon themselves the 7 Noahide laws and connecting, again, different denominations of Christians are doing this, and connecting to the Jewish aspect of the Christian beliefs, that it basically all comes from the Bible. It all originates with following the 7 Noahide laws, and it's their strengthening of their faith with the Bible, with the Bible, what some call the Old Testament, and following and practicing the 7 Noahide laws. Definitely a step in the direction of redemption. So that can't think of a better way to finish off today's daily Pulse of Israel, focused on the coming of the redemption. And yes, each and every person who is not Jewish but takes upon himself the 7 Noahide laws and studying the Bible is taking part in bringing the redemption. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Pulse of Israel. With today's topics, if you're interested in me talking about any other topics, write them in the comments below. Send me a message, and I will try to deal with them. Again, if you support the work we do with the videos, the Pulse of Israel, you can make a tax-deductible donation, however much, at www.pulseofisrael.com. And thank you for watching, thank you for sharing, and thank you for donating if you donate. Signing off, this is Avi Abelo for the Pulse of Israel in the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.